And I'm one of the co-founders of the Women Writing Intentionally Collective. Today I am joined by the beautiful Ruth Fae, who is one of the authors of our Wounded Women series. Ruth has actually come on board to write chapters in all three of our Wounded Women titles, all encompassing the broken, the betrayed, and the burned titles. So thank you so much for joining us today, Ruth. Would you please give us a little bit of an introduction to you and tell us how you help people?
Sure. Thank you for having me here. It's lovely to be involved. Um, so I'm Ruth Fae. I'm an intuitive writing coach and editor. I love storytelling, every aspect of it. I'm a mother to 4 children and stepmom to 3 more. So life's kind of crazy and busy and chaotic fun all the time, all the time. Through my work, I help people tell their stories basically, and that covers so many different facets of it. But I guess the way that I help them is that I help people have a safe space to find their voice and then speak their truths and then help them have the confidence to take that out into the world. And that involves both the coaching aspect and the editing, so that they are confident and proud of their work as they release it to the world, to the universe, wherever it goes.
I love that. And I just also want to, at this point, let everybody know that you are actually also on board as our chief editor within the Women Writing Intentionally Collective. So you are working very closely with Jenny and I from the perspective of helping to guide and nurture all of our authors' stories, which is exactly what you do. But in addition to that, you have chosen to come
Yes.
on board and actually write for us as well. So I would love to just dive in a little bit deeper and ask you what it was that made you feel called to contribute to not just one book, but to all three of the books in the series.
When you first told me about them, the series, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And all these ideas came in about things that I could write about. And then when you and Jenny invited me to be a chief editor of the collective, I kind of sat with it for a bit because I wasn't sure where my boundaries lay in that. Like, because I'm going to be working with authors to guide them, but also to edit their stories, was an overcommitment for me to write them in them as well. And then when I thought about it more, what really came through for me is that sharing stories is really important. And this is, as I said, that's what I help people to do. And a big part of that is healing, and healing individually as well as collectively. And I kind of felt like I needed to put my money where my mouth is in some ways, because this is what I help people do. And I also need to embody doing that, because I find it difficult to speak my truth sometimes, particularly in regards to a couple of the titles in this series. Um, so it felt like a challenge. The working with the authors is amazing and beautiful, and I love that. But actually writing in the 3 books is it is a challenge for me too. And I wanted to go on that journey of healing and growth with the authors and with you and Jenny, as well as be part of it, I guess. So it's kind of 2 levels, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, and I completely understand because, like you, obviously, Jenny and I are also walking the path of the wounded women, and we are writing our own chapters for the books, as well as facilitating and coordinating the
Yeah.
container for all of the authors. So I do respect when you're talking about holding boundaries, but then also wanting to participate and be a part of it. And I know that I can speak for Jenny and myself when I say that we are so grateful to have you on board, both as our chief editor and also coming on board to write in the series, because you and I have worked together before in Lunar Wisdom, which the paperback for that is being released on Wednesday with the new moon, which is very exciting. And we have already had an opportunity to work together. And I know that the writing that you do as an author is extremely powerful. And I am really looking forward to seeing how your journey unfolds in the Wounded Women series. So, following along with that, though, what, as a writer, what do you hope as a part of your chapters will help the readers who end up reading each of the books in the series?
For me, it's about people not feeling alone. When I write something that then resonates, even if it's only with one other person, and it helps them see themselves or feel a feeling that lets them know that they're not alone. Yeah, and they're seen and heard. That's really important to me. So that sort of guides most of my writing, I guess. Um, but it's also that showing people that speaking up, although it can be absolutely terrifying, is possible. And there is such a power in finding your voice and speaking what you feel and sharing your experiences with other people. And a big part of the reason that I do what I do in helping people to tell their stories is that I do believe that we need to bring balance into our world. Of masculine and feminine energies. I'm a mother to two boys, two girls, and I see how those things play out in my home life, and then obviously in school communities and the wider communities, and then across the world. So for me, that I'm hoping that in sharing my stories of the wounds that we have felt collectively as women, which we can only do by talking about our individual experiences, will then help other women to heal, which will also help men to heal and effectively mankind to heal as well, because we need to come together to make this world a safer, better, happier place. Maybe they're very lofty goals, but that's how I feel about it. So, yeah.
No, I love those goals. I think that they are absolutely perfect and so spot on because as a mother of two as well, I have one son and one daughter. It isn't just about empowering and healing women. It's that as we heal as women, we are nurturing and empowering the future generations because as mothers, we do hold, quite often, we are the ones who are holding that, I guess, those formative years as we raise our children and the values and things that we're instilling in them and the ability for us to heal then helps us to break those generational cycles as we raise our children. And that goes for both our sons and our daughters. And like you said, as we heal each other and as we heal as women, as we heal the collective encompasses both men and women. And this is how we shift the paradigms. So I love that this is what you are hoping to bring to the readers because it's exactly the kind of thing that we really want for this series as well. So given that that's what you want for the reader, what is it that you want to get out of it for you? What does Ruth need to get out of the Wounded Women journey?
I need to, like I said earlier, I need to practice what I preach. I need to embody what I believe. So I need to write my stories. I, like many, many other authors or aspiring authors, find it very easy to go, I'll do that later. I've got work to do. I've got kids to feed. I'll do that later. So making the commitment to do this and to do 3 books within 12 months or not even 12 months is it's a commitment to myself to continue writing. And also healing, because writing and healing for many, many people come at the same time. So I guess on a personal level, that's where I'm coming from. And it is also that the being brave part of it, and I've done it before, and honestly, I wrote 4 chapters in a lot the last couple of months with various books. Obviously, Lunar Wisdom's one of them. That was the first one, and then I did 3 more, and I was so happy. I loved doing it, so I wanna be in my happy place as well. That's part of it.
Yeah. Oh, and I love that Lunar Wisdom was your first. And I also, like,
Oh,
I love having watched over these past few months the kinds of titles and the books that you've been bringing out as well and contributing to. And I know that the stories that you're going to be sharing as part of Betrayed, Broken, and Burned are really just more of your story coming out, different facets of your story, because that's really what we share in each chapter that we write, is one new facet of ourselves and our
yes.
journey. And I look forward to being able to watch as these new facets of you unfold.
Me too. Who knows what's gonna come out?
And what is it like? Obviously, you enjoy the writing part, but what is the part of the journey that you are the most excited to experience overall? Like in this whole, because as you said, like it's a 12-month journey that we're going
Mm.
through as we write each of the 3 books. So it's not even just writing one story and launching one book and doing that. So what part of the journey are you most excited to be experiencing?
I love one of the things I love about collaborative books is meeting other people, the other authors, what we all give to that container. The container itself is safe and beautiful, but there's always some, and I had no idea this even existed until I sort of found multi-author books, I guess, about 12 months ago now. Um, so what everyone brings to it, it's not just the sharing of stories, it's the skills that we have outside in our working lives or in our personal lives as well. Um, every single book that I've done so far, I've made at least one new friend. I've made business connections in there as well. Um, but I've learned and I've grown alongside of the other women in those collectives. And I think it's just such a beautiful experience to go through. And I had no idea when I first talked to you actually, that this even existed and that it was possible to do that. And I find that such an incredibly interesting and supportive part of the journey. Not just the support that you and Jenny offer your authors, but the community that comes together and then continues because it's being launched, and it's not about Facebook friends particularly, but it's about these connections across the world that again are bringing this collective healing together through sharing our individual stories. That's my
Yes.
favorite bit.
Oh, I
Mm.
love that. And what you were just saying about that community element is one of the common threads that does seem to keep coming through as we've been doing these interviews with the
Okay.
other women who are coming into the Wounded Women series, is both either as a part of the journey that they're excited for, or it's what they're personally hoping to get out of the experience, because I feel like we are experiencing those shifting of
Mm.
paradigms and those um, that collaboration and that being together in a community that is supporting our growth and our journeys and is allowing us to be the person that we're meant to be and to hold space for those transformations as we go through those journeys,
Mm.
but also where we are making those connections, those lifelong connections that transcend the boundaries of one book. That it's very much about, obviously, because you're doing all 3 of the books, you will have an opportunity to work with a combination of different authors, because some of the girls are doing individual titles, or
Mm.
Amanda was on the other day talking about how she's doing Betrayed and Broken, and so some are doing more than one book, some are just doing one book, and so the mix changes a little between the books,
Yeah.
but that overall when you were talking a minute ago and you were saying that it was these connections across the world, I had this image of like this global, not just a network, but like a grid system, right? Where we're
Yeah.
all connecting and creating this web, I suppose, like
Yeah.
this grid. And that is a huge part of working in a collaborative container, is being able to make these connections and bond and take
Mm.
it further than just, oh, we share the pages of a book together. And
Yeah.
this was something that was super fun for us when we did Lunar Wisdom together, was the connections that all of the women were making, where, you know, I know some of the other authors are talking about getting together to do book launches because the paperback's coming out, because they're co-located in
Mm.
close proximity together. But my personal feeling is that books are forever,
Yeah.
and that we have this opportunity to create these relationships that are also forever as part of the container.
Absolutely. And you never know. One of the authors of Lunar Wisdom, while I was going through the process of writing my chapter, I had something happen in my family that, kind of threw me for a loop, and I wasn't sure how to deal with it. And I don't know how we even communicated about it, but somehow I found out that, oh, we connected, and she had been through something similar in her family, and we didn't know each other. We're across the world from each other, but she helped me so much in just sending each other messages about that particular thing. And that's only one example. Like, there's the synchronicities that come up when people connect across the world as well. As Jenny said, they are magical. It's yeah, it's a crazy thing. And I see it as, when you're in a plane and there's the picture on the screen and there's a plane here and a plane here and that shows you the dotted line. I see it like all of those dotted lines, but all there's lights everywhere, just across the world of
Yes.
people who are speaking.
And
Yeah,
that
I
was
think
the
it's
image I had
amazing.
too when I was talking about this grid. It was like lights, like
Yeah,
candles or like glowing crystal or like whatever, because
something.
it does feel like it lights us up to
Yeah,
have these connections. And it is that support, like you were saying, you were going through a really hard time in a situation in your personal life, and one of the other girls in the group was actually able to provide you with support and guidance from her own experiences. And I
yeah,
think this is one of the things that we are really excited about for the Wounded Women series, is that we know that there's a lot of healing and a lot of things that are going to come up as we are radically vulnerable, as we, dive into our journeys with these wounds, and the way that we have overcome them or are overcoming them or are working through them. And as we write and we relive some of these things and
mm,
re-examine them and unpack them and try to find the silver linings in them, that we do need to be holding space and supporting each other in order to be able to come through it, not just as individuals, not just as a group, but also stronger and in
yeah,
a safe kind of way. And it is something that we felt really strongly about. And I know I touched on this in one of the other interviews about how one of our other Lunar Wisdom authors, Talisha, has come on board because she does these amazing, she's a somatic movement and embodiment teacher, and she's really amazing at helping to lead movement classes and circles where we release those trapped emotions
yeah,
that we're holding in our bodies. And we really wanted to be able to provide that kind of support for everyone as we go through these journeys in ways that are going to help everybody um, to work through what comes up in a
yeah,
supportive, compassionate way. And as you said, like, these are the connections and networks that we make. This is something that happened for us in Lunar Wisdom, or, you know, connections we made in Lunar Wisdom that have then come over into the Wounded Women series. And like yourself, we had Amanda and Stephanie both on last week, who are also some of our Lunar Wisdom authors who've come into Wounded Women as well. And some of Jenny's Quiet and Badass authors, Christine and Terry, have both stepped up and said, yes, I want to share my story. And Terry, like you, is doing all 3 of the books. And for her, she said one of the big things was she felt like it was that continuation. It's the story after the story. You know, like,
yes,
what happened? Where are they now? How did things turn out? But it's then also that being able to continue the journey with some of the women that we've fallen in love with, and able to, you know,
absolutely.
really keep those connections going, but also demonstrating that our circle is also big enough to welcome new people in, that we're not just
Yeah.
a select group of women, we're for all women. And I'm really excited about a lot of the or all of the new women that have stepped up into our circle, or the new faces that are coming in. And I'm absolutely thrilled that you and our other previously participating authors have felt like this is a space that you guys feel comfortable with and safe and supported in, that you would actually trust us with a whole year of your life to come and share your story.
Crazy.
And, you know, and be radically vulnerable with us. So Ruth, I can't even tell you how much we love and appreciate you trusting us enough to, you know, come into our world and say, yep, I'm going to lay it all on the line over this next year. And
Yay, goosebumps. And I know we've been talking, well, I've been talking from a writing perspective and, you know, as an author in this series, but everything you were just saying also applies for, you could have asked me all those same questions in regards to me as an editor. And I do want to say to all of the authors out there and potential future authors and everything, that my role from that perspective is like, that's something that I'm super excited about as well. I thought about it in answer to the 5th question that you asked. Yes, I'm excited to tell my story and dive in from that thing, but I'm also so privileged and so honored to help people share their story and craft it into something that really represents them and their feelings and their message and their voice and their business or their personal life, whatever it may be, so that what they are putting out into the world is exactly what they want to say. And I guess that's how I see my role from the editing perspective in there as well. So I think that's just as important to acknowledge. And I'm super excited.
yes,
to be,
me too.
yeah.
I'm so excited. So Ruth, I really respect your time and thank you for being here with us today. If anybody has resonated with what you've shared so far and would like to reach out and make contact, or perhaps they would like to contact you about editing or book coaching services, where and how can people find you online?
Well, my business name is Fae Blood Publications, which is FAE at the beginning. Probably the easiest place at the moment to find me is my author website, which is ruthfaewriter.com. And you can get in touch with me through there. That's probably the easiest place.
Okay, perfect. Now, Jenny has got one bonus question for you. She says, Ruth, what would you say to somebody who's on the fence about contributing to a multi-author book because they aren't sure they know what story they would tell, but they feel called to write?
Okay, so this is me with Betrayed. I know exactly what stories I'm telling for the other 2. Betrayed, I'm like, oh, there's thoughts, but I'm not sure. So what I would say to that person, when I'm saying to myself, is literally just sit down and start writing, start scribbling on a big bit of paper, use different color textures, like do whatever it is that you want, but start getting the words out, because as you start to do that, and make sure you are not judging yourself and you're not putting pressure on, like literally have fun with it. Because as you start to write and put those words down on paper or on your computer screen, that is when your story will come. So if you feel called, listen to the calling, listen to that burn in your chest of, I need to say something, and then start writing. I never, ever, ever use my first paragraph. It's usually crap, because that's the bit where I get into the flow. And then by the second or third paragraph is like, oh, that's my story. So,
Mhm.
and that's where that non-judgment comes in. So I don't know, dive in both feet. Um, if you feel called, follow your feeling, follow your intuition, because that's what we do as women. And actually creating that story, that's what you and Jenny do. You guide through that process. I help guide through that process. The other women who come in and do, like Talisha with her healing, that's part of the process as well. So don't feel that you need to be a amazing, already published writer who knows your story, because the story's in here, and in here. It just needs to come out, and that's what we're here to help.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's such a great answer. And you touched on some elements that Lindsay actually touched on earlier in her interview, where she was talking about following intuition and feeling that pull and really starting to listen to those nudges that we get and trusting that whatever it is that we're feeling called to do is actually for us.
Yeah.
But that she also confessed that she feels like in her betrayed story, she's still in the process of working through it, but it's not always that knowing how the story is going to end. Sometimes it's recognizing that there
Yeah.
is a story to share and just starting to write and recognizing that the journey can be the story, even if
Yeah.
you don't know what the ending is, that sometimes it's saying yes and allowing yourself, as you said, just allow yourself to write. No judgment, just, start putting pen to paper and seeing what happens, because that is where the magic is.
And allow yourself to cry too, because that's part of it as well, and that's okay.
There's so many tears.
Oh, so many. So many.
Yes, but,
Yeah.
it's better out than in, all of those
Mm.
releasing the tears and everything is part of that, releasing those emotions that we've been
Yeah.
holding trapped inside our body, and it is part of the healing process, so
But also so much joy, and that's really important. Like, it is, again, it comes back to that balance of releasing tears, hurt, pain, wounds, trauma, all that sort of stuff, but then the joy and happiness and support and love, and that's all there as well. Writing really is it's a crazy journey. So
It
fun.
is, but it's so magical. Like,
Yeah.
whether you are published or not, even just the act of writing, whether it's
Mm.
journaling, whether it's whatever it is, that is it can be such a therapeutic
Yeah.
part of our practice. And I know, and I'm just deviating a little bit here, but your chapter in Lunar Wisdom, or rather your contribution to the spell book section in Lunar Wisdom, was about how to tap into your writing, and
Mm.
really listen to your intuition and feeling that pull and writing with the phases of the moon. And I think that a lot of what you shared in there are really great tips for people who really do want to
Mm.
get into a writing habit and learn how to start writing from that intuitive place within, where they're really getting in touch with themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And we could probably talk about this for days.
Yes, I'm sure we could. If you'd like to check out Ruth's section on how to write intuitively with the cycles of the moon, you can pick up a paperback copy of Lunar Wisdom on Wednesday, 19th
You
of
sure
April.
can.
Um, but yes, if you are feeling called to connect with Ruth at all and discuss any of the things around writing, editing, or book coaching and sharing your story, do make sure that you reach out to her on social media. Or if you're considering joining us as a writer in the Wounded Women series, please know that Ruth is very compassionate and magical, and she'll sprinkle so much fairy dust all over your chapter to help bring out the beauty in you. I can highly recommend her services, and that's one of the reasons that we really wanted to bring her on board, because she is an expert in her field.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today, gorgeous girl. And I know that Jenny is also very grateful to you for your time. She's been following along, even though she couldn't be here live with us on the interview. So thank you for being here, and thank you to everybody who has tuned in to join us today, or who might be catching us on the replay. Lots of love.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely.